You done inspired me.
Oh, what's your name?
Sequoia. Sequoia Anderson.
Sequoia Anderson?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a
The operations
operations manager for
It's gonna take a while.
Vanguard?
That's what's been.
Gotcha. Allegiant Prep? Sorry.
I got a lot of research I gotta do.
Don't do that, man. You can
Vanguard. Vanguard Collegiate of Indianapolis.
Maybe I should start with something like that, but
All
I
right.
was trying to
Sequoia
picture like I
Anderson.
want people to
Operations.
read it
manager.
and not
Manager.
feel like they're
Okay.
they're
Alright.
responsible
All right. Got it.
at work or something.
But we're married
Right.
too,
I want
man.
you to be
You
comfortable.
know we were
and
married?
get the-
Well, he mentioned it earlier, but yeah.
just didn't connect.
All right. We're live. Find that live feed and share it.
Right. Listen, man. You can tell me on you, man, in a minute.
Hello, Facebook. We are live right now. This is the Gray Area, and this is your boy Ray E.
And this your boy P. West. What's happening?
and this is your girl Ebony.
Ebony in the building, y'all. Now we gotta get on Ebony's head.
Uh-oh.
You know, we have to get on
Uh-oh.
Ebony's head.
What did I do? Hey, don't come for me. I've been studying Cat. I'm telling you.
You've been
You
studying.
studying what?
Cat Williams.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Please,
God.
please clarify that. I'm like, what's she talking about, man?
Cat
You-
Williams
you
and my
know-
comebacks now. You're gonna be one. I'm gonna be
You know
Cat.
you can't
Both
say
of
that
y'all.
with him.
I know,
You
right?
know you can't say
this
that.
is an education show, too.
Right?
Dang.
And you've been studying cat, so I mean,
I got you. I
So
see how
we-
you put that in. Okay.
We have a very interesting discussion here today. Going to talk about education, charter schools. We're following up with a couple of fellas that have been here with us. Was it last year? Like mid last year? Was it late
They were
last
here
year?
this
Was it?
earlier this year,
It
too.
was both.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Last year
They've
and
been here
earlier.
Yeah. So
times.
so you came last year. You came earlier, right before the summer hit.
Right.
And then now enrollment is happened and school is going. So we got to get the scoop on how that's
Yeah.
going.
Yes,
So you
sir.
guys got your own charter schools.
Mhm.
That's a
Congratulations, by the way.
major, that's a major accomplishment. It's a big
Yeah.
deal. And
My man.
we have a couple of more guests here. Sequoia Anderson is here with for Allegiant Prep. So my man Robert Marshall, Rick Anderson, Sequoia Anderson, and then my very dear cousin.
Cousin.
I was gonna keep it professional, but
Pete.
this is my cousin, y'all,
Gotta keep it real.
My cousin
This
right
is
here.
family. Family's in the building.
on the air.
And what's her name?
This
What's her name, right?
Dr. Nicole and sorry, Dr.
Armstrong.
Nicole Armstrong.
man, I didn't even know
I'll
her fault.
introduce you, Doc. I got
It's a
you.
family name.
We have
Please get it, Ed. Please get it.
joining the Gray Area, we have an author. We have a teacher extraordinaire. We have Dr. Nicole Armstrong, also Ray's cousin. Dr. Nicole Armstrong in the building.
Yes, yes,
Thank you,
yes, yes.
That better?
thank you, thank you.
Yes. Okay, so we got to talk about what's happening with the charter schools and what's been going on. Robert Marshall Jr., we're going to start with you
Junior.
in regards to your school and what's been going on with you know I had to put the junior in there. You don't want to get the Robert Marshalls mixed up now.
You know
You
you just getting Pat riled up. That's all
Right.
right.
Giving them material.
Vanguard Collegiate of Indianapolis. Tell us about your charter school and what's been going on with it. How did enrollment go and what is it looking like now?
So we are unapologetically college prep,
All right.
focusing on the academic success of our scholars. We have we opened up August 1, grades 5 through 7. We're over on the near west side of Indy, so we're in the Hallville neighborhood, right in the heart. We're right at 14th and Bellevue, so we're a couple blocks
Okay.
away from
I'll
Long's
build in the
Donuts.
house.
Yeah, you can smell the lungs in
Best
the morning
donut
when I
house
sit
in
out
the
front.
Your
greeting the
employees,
scholars,
your
yeah.
employees probably gained about 50 pounds the first
every,
2 weeks.
Yep,
Didn't they?
yep. Every Wednesday
Dang.
I buy Long's Donuts. From,
Oh,
from
my
staff.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's a
So-
setup right there.
Can we come visit on those
So we should have been
mornings?
here yesterday, so we could have got donuts.
Right.
Yep. So we enrollment wasn't where we wanted to be. We ended
Okay.
up with about 65 scholars this
Mhm.
year, which is good. Which is
Mhm.
good
Yeah,
for us. So
absolutely.
we have
Yeah.
fifth grade 2 5th grade classrooms, 1 6th grade classroom, and 1 7th grade classroom. And so actually tonight was Meet the Teacher night, and so we had about 80% of our families come and participate, which was really strong participation for us. We were really excited. They got a chance to really hear about where their scholars are. We recently completed some of our assessments, and so we had data to share with our parents.
Nice.
They had their full packet with progress reports and the data, and then individualized plans for scholars. So here's where you're going to get support. Here's what that support looks like to get you where you need to be. And so things are coming along well. We really appreciate the support that you all gave us.
No problem.
Over the last year and a half. It's really been strong, and so we really appreciate that. I think it did a lot to push the name of Vanguard out there, and to get enrollment to where it was. And so thank you all for all
no
that.
problem, man. No problem. Thanks for coming on and sharing that with the community.
Right.
You're just trying to be a resource, for people, and we have to let people know that there are other options out there.
There are indeed.
All right.
There are indeed. Options with leaders that look like you.
That's
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
That's right.
That understand, so Rick Anderson,
Yes.
Allegiant Prep
Allegiant Prep
Academy.
Allegiant Prep Academy.
Tell us about Allegiant Prep.
Again, I'm the founder and head of school of Allegiant Prep Academy. Simply put, we have a really, really big focus on intelligence plus character. So we start with kindergarten and first grade, and we really believe that we have to backwards plan from 2030 and 2031, the year that they'll graduate and go to college. So we're really, really focused on developing the skills, the mindsets, and the habits to ensure they have everything they need to live a life of positive action, right? So if you see something being done wrong, then you step forward with your words or with your actions, right? We all have a responsibility in terms of servant leadership. So while we have a really, really strong academic program that's focused on literacy and math, there's something called CGI, which is called cognitively guided instruction, that I can talk more about later on. But with that being said, we opened July 30th with 40 students. So we didn't hit our number that we were originally planning on hitting, but to be honest, we are really, really lean in terms of staff, but what it gives us, me and us, an ability to do is to have our fingerprint on the pulse of the school, right? So academic interventions, individual family meetings, right? Providing real-time coaching, modeling and actually leading instruction ourselves. We're able to do that so that we can build a really, really strong foundation that then we can scale and have systems to support. So we're open kindergarten and first grade, and I brought our operations manager and also my wife, Sequoia Anderson, along for this crazy ride to help hold me accountable and support as well.
Oh, nice. So, Koya, tell us about the operations side of things. How's that going?
And how did he persuade you to get involved?
Persuade is the correct word. So operations, meaning like I deal with everything from managing our budget, procurement, facilities, vendors, relations, all of that. But also, like Rick said, we are very lean on staff. So I'm in the classroom every day. We're in the cafeteria. We're at recess. So it's just a real team effort. And honestly, he didn't have to persuade me.
You seen it. You seen the vision.
It's his passion. His passion,
She got
And you have a background in education too, though, right?
Yes. So this is my 9th year in education. I taught kindergarten for 2 years, 8th grade social studies for 3, and then this is my 4th year as an operations manager. So
Nice.
And I think one thing to note, one, was a phenomenal 8th grade teacher, a phenomenal grade level chair, and a phenomenal operations manager at one of the highest performing schools in the state of Tennessee before we left.
Nice.
But for the last 2 or 3 years, I was the head of school and she was the operations manager, so we had been doing that prior to
There's
coming
experience
on.
there.
Right.
Wow.
So
That's amazing, man. We're gonna dig deeper in and talk more about that. Dr. Nicole Armstrong, also my cousin. What's going on? So you have this book, this phenomenal book, How to Leave Your Class for a Guest Teacher.
How not to leave.
No.
It's how to.
How to.
it's
You
how
see
to.
that X? Come
Oh
on,
my
that.
God.
See,
The nod is silent.
what the
That's
X
my-
mean on the?
That's not.
The nod is silent. That's
How
okay.
not to leave.
I like
That's
that.
okay.
How to leave.
How to leave your class.
Look, I'm saying it back and I'm
But
saying
honestly, inside
that's
the
my
book, it
A-type
does tell you
personality.
what not to do
How
as
not
well.
to leave
So,
your class. Okay.
So it goes both ways.
Got it.
so it can go both ways.
Okay.
But if you're looking for the title, the nod is silent.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. So
You
tell us
just
about
knew
your
that
book.
because you her cousin.
Look, because I had it wrong since
Yeah,
we came
thank
in.
you. Now, how did you read it, Pat? Don't make me feel like I'm the only one slow person in the class.
No. It just depends. Some
Now.
people read it one way and some people read it the other.
It's
Yeah.
confusing.
But it's
Make me
how
feel like I'm
It's
slow.
confusing.
it is not
To
confusing.
black folks, us, it's confusing.
No. Glass half
We
empty.
see a word
Glass
and
half
accent, and
full.
then
Right.
we say it.
We feel like we need because our teacher told us
So
read
viewers.
everything.
You running around saying
okay?
knife?
The viewers.
I know that.
Viewers, I just want y'all to see what we're talking
Knife.
about here.
Couldn't
Now,
I'm
it's
saying
easy
tonight.
to look.
Oh,
Look,
my
we don't see X's sometimes. Okay.
I was told to stay away from X.
So-
I mean, when I see the red letter X, I'm supposed to,
Not say.
you know what I'm saying?
Should I get her?
You better not. Hey, I'm cat strapped.
Uh-oh. I don't want to be in a crossfire.
What did 50 Cent say?
Cat strap.
Get straight.
I knew you was gonna say it.
So I
So
wrote a
tell us about
book.
the book.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Nicole,
Because
please.
they look like they're going. I wrote a book. It's called How to Leave Your Class for a Guest Teacher. It explains to teachers how to prepare their class when they're going to be absent for substitutes. But
Wow.
I love the term guest teacher.
Mhm.
It gives us a little more credibility,
Sure does.
especially with the students, because of course, when we walk in the class, they think that we're not a real teacher.
Mhm.
So guest teacher is what I use, but it basically tells teachers what they should be leaving. I need a lesson plan. I need a seating chart. I need all the resources available that you have when you are there. Plus, I'm sitting in front of 30 or more students that I've never met, and I need to know what to tell them. So
So
instead of the students missing out on a day of learning, leave me what you want or what you would have taught and let me handle it.
This calls for an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
It is.
So, Ebony, you're a teacher.
Oh, okay.
Yes, she is.
A
All right.
teacher's profoundly not leaving substitute teachers or the guest teachers.
Yeah, I mean, and she's
Unequipped.
pissing off every substitute teacher with the title substitute teacher because she's.
Who said substitute?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I can't speak for other teachers.
'Cause you
I
always
would
there.
hope. I would
Huh.
hope. Yeah,
Is
I
that what
try
it
not
is?
to call in
You don't
only
miss no
because I leave my stuff. I can't say that. Dang. Only because you can run into the possibility of being prepared and leaving your guest teacher prepared,
Gotcha.
but things still don't get done. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. But
I think we have to
love
hold
it.
each other accountable. I don't
Yes.
mind that. I think,
Yeah.
and shout out to the teachers because you guys do a wonderful job and you're underpaid, overworked. But yes,
Thank you.
definitely,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Thank
But the thing about it is, as a guest teacher, I can speak
Mm-hmm.
from this perspective, and as a teacher, you can speak from a certified teacher
Yeah.
in the classroom. So it goes both ways. Yes, we need to hold each other accountable because at the end of the day, the student is the one that's losing out.
Yeah.
So it's better to leave the proper resources in the substitute or
Right.
guest teacher not
Do your part.
follow them
Mm-hmm.
than not to leave anything at
At
all
all.
for someone that like me who walks in who's ready and able
Yeah.
and willing to get those students the same information that you would have if you were there.
I should be a guest teacher.
Oh, hell.
My name is
Hell
Bennett.
no.
Whole class would watch Roots. Whole time, hey.
First
Listen to
graders
Tyler-
watching Roots.
And listen to
See?
Tyler and Kweli.
See?
Yep, listen to Talib Kweli and watching Roots
We're
all
gonna,
day.
let you
That's
stay on the
second.
DJ booth. You
Yep.
just
That's
gonna go and
funny.
stand on the DJ
Mhm.
booth.
And students actually get mad too when you have a guest teacher that comes in to actually teach, you know, and to
Yeah.
follow. They're like,
We
oh,
love- hey.
You know what?
What is this?
In
Whenever we
some
saw
cases,
sub,
in some cases,
Right.
in some cases, they get upset
yeah.
that we're there because they miss their teacher that they've grown accustomed
Aw,
to.
that's so
Other cases, they get happy that
Mhm.
we're there because they think that they're not going to have to do any work,
right, right.
or they have a really horrible teacher
And they're so
and they're
too.
happy that
Mhm.
teacher is not in the building. So with my 7 years of experience, I've
Yeah.
experienced all of those situations. I get asked, "Where's my teacher?" And I have to tell them, "Darling, I have no idea where your teacher is."
Let me be nice
So
to
please
my
tell you,
students so they can do
teachers,
that.
please tell your students where you're going if you have the ability, so they won't be worried because they're afraid that I did something to their teacher. So yeah, it is definitely important in letting the students know we're coming and asking them to give us some respect.
Yes.
Also be wonderful. That's in the
Yes.
book, definitely, because
That's why I
students
couldn't do
already
this,
have that. You could.
I get fired or
Yes, you could.
hauled out of there by the
Yes, you could.
officers. Definitely.
You could be. It's not
It's
as
fun.
bad as you think
It's not.
it is.
Who are typical? Okay, so who are typical substitute teachers? Because they're not always teachers.
Thank you for asking me that. So, substitute teachers, there's a wide range of us. There are teachers that cannot find a job at the moment who have to substitute. There are retired teachers that have been teaching for over 20, 25 years and they only want to work a couple days a week. And then there are graduates just graduating with their teaching certificate and want to get some experience, or me. Somebody with a master's. I started off with a master's and gone on to a doctorate. Just wanted to have something to do and work in education as I was pursuing my education myself. And just got attached to it and kept doing it and was good at it and kept getting callbacks. I still get calls now, even though I'm in Illinois right now. I get calls from Nevada. So it's just a variety. I think that if the school and the teachers get together and explain that to them, then they'll be more willing to listen to us.
And I don't know how it is because you're in Illinois, right? You said you're in Illinois.
I've done Illinois and Nevada.
Okay. And I believe and Rick and Robert, you can if you can correct me. For Indiana, I think you have to have a degree, right?
Most states.
Okay.
Most states.
No.
In
For a
Atlanta,
guest teacher.
in Atlanta, you'd only have to have a high school diploma.
So when you say
Georgia.
qualified, and that's something that, I try to explain to students, even, with guest teachers, the co-teachers, they're qualified. You have to have a college degree to get it.
In most states, you have to have a
Substitute.
college degree. And then there's some states where you just have to have a high school diploma. But then there are some states that you have to have a teacher certificate just to substitute.
Just a substitute.
So
What's
in
a teacher
Indiana,
certificate?
there is an emergency.
Yeah, you
there's
do
a
have it
substitute
too.
teacher's license in the state of Indiana, and so a lot of schools use the services, and so they put you through,
Kelly's or
put you through like 16 hours of training. Those lessons, substitute teaching, and so I got. But
For the
my
most
best
part,
experience is folks are
I
prepared.
see school districts and school schools and school districts even for an emergency plan. Yes, I know if you were there.
right.
So leave that for the teacher. It's a quick email.
Okay.
It's a quick email.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not sure if this is based on the specific district, but when I was in college, I think once I got 50 credit hours, I used to come home in the summer or during the breaks, and I would substitute teach, trying to make additional. It was even before I knew I was going to go into education. The requirement to substitute teach in the district. So.
Yeah, in both Illinois and Nevada, it was required. At the time, I had already reached master's level, so I was already qualified children. There's your experience right there. I mean, I'm that parent that was going right instead of waiting for the teacher. See?
I wouldn't use it.
Just,
I would just sit it on the desk.
you know,
See this paddle right here?
I saw
Right
this in
Slam
one
it
of the
down when I
groups
come
I'm
in.
in. I saw this in one of the groups I'm in. They were the substitutes were asking, what should we do if we're having a problem with this fake camera in the room, and said this is being streamed to your parents and the principal's office.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't on, it worked.
Yeah.
There you go, teachers.
Wow.
With a camera in there.
Yes, teachers out there.
Robert just said that he has.
but it is my.
Started waiting, you just stopped in your tracks. I have that.
It's
And they
some
respect
states,
it.
they just brought the paddle back.
It
Oh,
is.
God.
Look, if they need it here.
Yeah.
Really?
I
Yeah.
do.
Like
Yeah.
Southern states. I mean, when we were in
Yeah.
Memphis,
Alabama or something?
What's the age cap? The grade cap on that?
Right, because
They will.
So
But how do y'all handle that though?
Yeah.
Like any kids that have any disciplinary problem.
yeah, I mean, I think it starts. I always say that it's three-pronged. It's one, students have to come into a environment that is consistent and predictable every single day. So there's when we go through like teacher training, we spent 3 weeks with staff before students started, and there's a normed behavior system within the school, because some schools you go into, how you go in one classroom, it's kind of kids are bouncing off the wall, and then you walk past. As soon as they leave there, it's like school, a teacher, a guest teacher that comes in, we have a normed behavior system that students are invested in beyond just the person in front of them that connects to like communication to their parents every single night. So it's like a consistent system that students are invested in. Two, it's what's in the teacher's toolkit. So least invasive skill versus invasive skills, right? So if you call out, or Pat calls out, right? We'll use Pat as an example. I feel like maybe that fits your high school,
definitely.
Right? Is it going to the like, Pat, I told you to be quiet, not making it a public thing. I'm addressing you, but I'm starting with least invasive before I give you a consequence. A lot of times teachers come in and like, I just teach math. I don't have to have a relationship. To be honest, like I don't want to tell you to sit down because you may. So I always think about like culture and those three pieces. Like, what is the system? What are the teachers been equipped with? And then do you have relationships? So.
And see, we don't have the ability to have relationships most times as guest teachers because we just walked in the door. And so we, if the school has in place, you know what the call is, you can use it, and they know. In most cases, that's not the case. So I have to, on my own, set that situation up in 2 to 3 minutes, as opposed to the 3 weeks you had with your teachers. To the favorites is when a student's acting out, I just go stand near them. I mean, that tends to, it's like, what? She's right here. You know, what can I do? I can't hide. Or anyway, yes, I want to come sit by the teacher. On the grade level. That does not always work. We have a class.
We're married, bro.
Robert said I can't confirm or deny.
I have major problems in that area. I remember he said, sit in the seat. So I sat in the seat looking around. They didn't see. I said yes. I said yes, I'm new. Funny. And so the bell rang, and the guy that put me up to it, he was so happy. But that gave me and built a relationship because I listened to my instructions and followed.
You mentioned we do a lot of the same things. One, we tried to food. I walked over to the school to get my lunch. You know, my neighbor didn't have the lights on. They walked up to the school. The school said, "Okay, hey, go here, and then get you connected."
Okay, gotcha.
So being able to one recognize that there are other barriers to understanding that education is our #1 priority, but being as attentive as we can be to those situations. And then the second thing for us, we have a reset room. He operates that room and an opportunity to cool off those triggers. I know how to deal with them and use some coping mechanisms. And they also incorporate a little bit of meditation, so I get my mind right. I can get
meditation works
before I go back to class. And then when I go back to class, Dr. Love facilitates a quick conversation between the teacher and the scholar, so they can repair that relationship, whatever damage was done, before they can jump back into learning. And for us, it has to be a quick process because if you're not you're not learning.
Right.
To kids who are challenged with learning in the normal fashion, you know, we have a lot of kids who just don't get it. Like, you can explain it to them 50 different ways. What kind of things are you doing to get those kids where they need to be, you know, instead of, you know, because I noticed that some teachers will just roll with the curriculum,
right?
And it's not necessarily their fault. It's just that they have to get through so much in a short amount of time before they get to the next thing. So I understand, but what do you do to engage those kids who are having a hard time keeping up?
I'll answer from my perspective. Well, every student can learn. It's just how they learn. Right. So that goes back to like knowing your student. Like Rick was saying, you have to learn the students and learn how they learn best, and then you have to cater to how it's hard to do in a class of 28, right? But you have to try your best to cater to, or more. You have to try your best to cater to every individual student's learning the way that they learn. And it's difficult to do, but once you learn how they learn, dealing with them, which goes back to knowing the students, because if you know what's going to set them off, you can catch them before that sets them off. And for most students that have I'm not gonna say like a learning disability or just like behind the curve, it's usually because you can prep them before. So recess is a good time to be like, okay, during math we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. I want to show you so you can be my assistant. When really you're trying to like show them before you show the whole class, so they don't get to that point.
And so things like that are happening in the class. I don't have a lesson plan, and I don't have a seating chart, and I don't know Billy eats pencils, and I know these things. Same learning to someone new because they are accustomed to being that you're just not acting out at that moment. So that's one of the major reasons I wrote come in and handle this classroom that has never seen me before, not to speak to strangers. So here's a stranger walking in the room that they don't know. And now if I'm always, how am I going to act for the rest of class? But if I know little Susie changed.
You got any thoughts on that?
Yes, I was gonna. So I was actually thinking of. I mentioned CGI, which is kind of a way to teach math through story problems conceptually.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about a problem today in first grade where it's a story problem. I think it may have been subtraction. Like, the teacher had so many juices. This many were taken. How many were left? And it was the end of the lesson where all the students come around the carpet. And Pat, the BBC chart paper you were talking about actually is up, and then you pick 2 students based on the independent practice when you're going around as manipulatives to help count, right? So if they started with 23 juices, one student went and he had pretty much counted, broke them up individually and put 23 out, and then had circled like the 6 that he had taken out, and she counted how many are left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that was his vertically, and he had just put 6 in a different color, and he had said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at the end of the day, you're building a sense of community around one. There's 2 different ways to get to an answer, right? The second thing is like you can have different solutions or strategies to get to that solution, right? Student B's was more efficient because instead of having them all laid out 1, 2, 3, you can get confused when you're counting. It was in a straight row. I think of like students that maybe are thinking a different way. So that was one put in the ground, and I don't know how I just blitzed on it, but like an example of that, right? Like a lot of times you get to, everyone has seen, the high schools on, right? We meet with each individual family that enrolls, and I know that Robert does it as well, right? To say, this is who we are, and this is who we are, right? In kindergarten and first grade, just naturally kids sometimes happen. Like Johnny just writes on stuff, right? But then if it's not addressed, then Johnny's sweating small details as if though a fight broke out, right? This is almost a suspension-worthy behavior, right? You're not being suspended. I'm just going to address you as if though, like, hey, this is major. You're going to apologize because you're being disrespectful to a piece of paper or the top of a jar. I'm not going to think about elbowing this person when the teacher turns the back.
And I think it's a matter of philosophy. We're huge on what they call push-in. And so that is, Pat, you remember when we were at LN, there was like a whole wing for kids who were special education, who had challenges. And I remember having a heartbreaking moment stepping into one of those classrooms and seeing that they weren't learning anything. Putting additional adults in those rooms, because we've identified those scholars that need additional help making sure in math, but in addition to that, they put staff people in buildings to support your math instruction. And so, while math and science instruction is happening, they're running small group instruction in the back of the class. When they're working in groups, those kinds of and so in addition to that, we have a dedicated staff member for students who have particular challenges. We have a student supports coordinator, and her whole job is to make sure that we've identified those students, 2, that we're in compliance and we're giving them what we're legally required to give them, but more than that, 3 is for us, people into the building to provide additional resources for those scholars to make sure that they're set up for success, just like any other student. Go ahead.
Which is, I was just going to ask, can you explain how is that? Because you talked about when we were going to LN, y'all younger than me, lower classmen, class of 97. But anyway, from LN, yes, class of 97. What are y'all, 99, something like that? 98, 99?
That's a lot of years.
Dang, isn't it? Wait, 97? Education was a classroom, was not an inclusion class. It was just a class by itself. A student who may have, I know it wasn't popping back then, ADA. They would put a student, right.
Sure.
So, and how...
I don't know if Rick was on that one.
Wow.
I think he might have been when we separated.
So
middle school separated from elementary, and so I encountered a couple of schools that still had that model. And it was, I felt the very same that I did it. I have additional needs, and so there's no designates, so people aren't...
I ain't even gonna remind.
A lot of kids who had, and so we knew it, and so in our model, that doesn't happen to scholars. And so the ones that need additional support, the way our day is structured, there's opportunities for them. The block of every day for us is tutoring, and saying, okay, particularly to get that support, for example.
And it, no, Lord.
It's because we love
oh my goodness, right,
Reading
right.
comprehension.
your Gen Ed younger ages, but I've just found that they know that in I think my 4 years. And mostly because
Yeah.
of good,
That's a
strong
good
coaching culture, setting the culture.
You're absolutely right.
When they're
I
younger, they don't.
Is that
don't-
are they doing that
don't
in
know,
younger
but when they-
classes too?
So what's blown my mind is how open and accepting our seventh graders have been. They've been
Yes.
extremely mature. You know, they're seventh graders, so they're mature on a lot of
Huh.
things. But with regards to those kinds of things, like
Right.
we actually have a transgender student, and our kids have completely embraced that scholar, right? And so, and the same with the kids that have special needs, they completely embrace them. And so, when we have like small groups, you know, they're helping those students, and they're learning from each other, right? I remember in week 3, it was really interesting. One of our scholars was actually picked up and led his group,
Wow.
and everybody in the group was like, "Wait,
Nice.
like you know this stuff?"
Wow.
You know, because you know they know,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And they couldn't believe that he had all this prior knowledge. But the problem was where he was at before.
He wasn't comfortable.
He wasn't pushed academically,
Oh.
and so no one really knew what he knew.
Right.
Right,
And it's
Put
an
him in a position
assumption.
to be able to share and be a leader in that regard.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is more students are helpful, especially when I come into the class and I'm a guest teacher and I don't know what's going on, and maybe the person that is assigned to that particular student is also absent. So I'm in here with these students alone. I tend to see the students say, well, Miss so-and-so, the aide usually comes in and she usually works with this assignment with the student, or they usually work on this, and they're more helpful
Yeah.
and make one another feel comfortable. And so I see that in all grades, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I see that in all grades. So
That's awesome.
I've never seen one tease for that. Now they may tease them for their having to
Right.
hold
Any
their
other
shoe,
thing, but not
or,
that.
or
Yeah.
they didn't have the new Jordans or what have you, but they don't tease them about their needs or
Right.
anything like that, which is important. Which is
That's
because
beautiful.
I don't know how I handle that because I'd be upset.
I was gonna,
Riley.
yeah, I was gonna
Yes.
say also it's as the adults in the classroom, you always have to model like the academic expectations you want, but also modeling like intentionally, that we make mistakes, right? Like
Right.
I used to do this all the time in class. Like 2 + 2 is 3, right? And then see if a student raised their hand and said anything, right? Like, and it's to say like, 1, I want to see if you caught the error and who can give me the right answer.
Right.
2,
Paying
it's
attention.
like, hey, I made a mistake. I'm an adult and I'm teaching and I make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes.
Right.
And with kindergarten and first grade, you literally can create J factors out of anything. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. On 2, let's say it's okay. It's okay.
okay.
And then we go back to
You
work.
see how they
So,
said it on?
use-
Yeah, that's
use-
beautiful.
yeah.
That's
So you can have more fun in K1, probably how you infuse it, but yeah. So
So are you
Yeah.
guys big advocates on ADHD testing?
That's a good question.
And Ed, I mean, you can also.
Ooh.
Clarify what you mean. What you mean by a big advocate?
Well, I mean, some schools like they, like any kid that they feel.
They use it as a scapegoat
Yeah. So let's get this kid
students
tested.
being
to keep
overdiagnosed.
their ratings.
See, but that also goes back to not knowing your student.
There you
Right.
go.
Very
that,
true.
that student is active because either they're bored
Yep.
or they don't know what's going on, so now they're going to start to play with their hands, and then they're playing with their feet, and then that's ADHD. But honestly,
Or
the
they're high
student-
on sugar.
right, or the student just doesn't know what's going on. So I'm not quick to throw that term out there or use that term at all until I know for a fact like what is going on with this student. Why are they not focused?
It's an easy boilerplate scapegoat word, right? If we had a parent that enrolled their child later in the year and later, like it's been 8 months, but after 3 or 4 weeks after school, right? I'm sitting and having the family meeting, and she's saying like, at the previous school, the teacher is saying like, the student's acting up and doing this and that, and that he has ADHD, right? And this is a teacher telling a parent
Right.
this, and as a teacher, you're not even equipped to make a professional recommendation on ADHD
Not at all.
unless
Right.
Not at all.
so it's kind of like your son's just a problem. He's been at our school, and what it is he's after we took our nationally normed literacy assessment, after we took the MAP assessment, it's like he's
Really high.
he's really high, so he probably
Got bored.
the content wasn't rigorous enough, right?
Right.
Does he sit there and move some too much and all that and look around? Like, yeah, he does, but it's like I don't see one, I don't have the professional lens to diagnose ADHD, and to
Right.
Mrs. Anderson's point, I don't speak on something that I'm not, qualified to do. But it's like, what was the environment like he was in? What was the content? Was it
Right.
rigorous enough? Right? If you have a teacher that obviously is saying like he's pretty much bad, he has ADHD, I can only imagine, what he's internalizing. And it hasn't been night and day, but he's done a lot better. Right? There's a lot more hope here versus where he was at. So that would be my response to like the overdiagnosis.
Yeah.
And not to mention, what grade was he in?
He's in
Elementary?
first grade.
First grade.
So
Come
the
on, man.
brains aren't
First
even
grade.
fully
I mean,
developed yet.
Absolutely.
Brains
I,
aren't even
I
fully
want to
developed.
jump and play at 39. I can, let alone a first grader.
Right, you have to think about like the school day. The school day, and for us, we have extended year, extended day, so it's very long. So to ask a 5 to 6 year old
Right.
to sit there
sit
and
still.
not move at all, like I can't even do that.
Do you guys
walking
have
around the
recess?
building. Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Wow.
They
Oh
were
yeah,
part
you
of
got
that.
to have recess.
Oh,
yeah.
no, some
Yeah.
schools don't in elementary.
Now?
Yes.
Yeah.
School I
Some
was at, my
schools have
first year
no
didn't have it.
recess.
And the teachers rebelled on the school leader in a Friday PD. We were having a professional development. You know how you have Friday professional development.
Yeah, they
Like
don't
you
have
come in as a
recess in a
school
lot of
leader, and
schools
this is
now.
what we're doing today. Teachers like, nope, we're tired of not having recess for these kids because they're bouncing off the wall. And it all became like an intervention, like and then
Wow.
after the break we started having recess. But
Kids
So-
have
so-
way too
Yeah.
much energy
So,
to not
so
be
let's
able to-
not have recess in Chicago in the winter, and let's not have recess in Vegas in the summer. But all year round, other than that,
outside of
yes.
What did you inside?
Yeah, we 5th and
Listen,
6th graders.
How do you
they don't
students
get recess
outside is
anymore.
103.
No.
really?
5th and 6th
And
graders.
yes,
no,
103
recess.
is recess.
Robert
It's like-
Michael.
But there are some schools that don't have
It's
recess.
just freezing outside and the kids want recess.
See, we went to the gym.
No.
During cold months, everybody
Thank
in
you.
the gym.
Thank you. Put that out there.
My 5th and 6th graders get recess.
Oh, that's cool.
Because on a guest teacher salary, I'm not taking the kids outside 100.
Things you can do in charter school.
Right.
Recess.
Right. To your original question, your original point, just about ADHD, I think Rick and Sequoia really hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's been interesting for us this school year, particularly with our student support coordinators, really educating parents
Yeah.
on what that diagnosis means.
Awesome.
What are your rights as a parent
Yes.
with that diagnosis, and then it's been a re-education, right?
Mhm.
Don't
Sure.
use that as a crutch or an excuse
Right.
Right.
for behaviors, because at the end of the day, your kid knows right from wrong. And if they don't, that's
Right.
right here.
Oh, because they will use it.
They
And
will.
they will especially use it on me when I come in the classroom.
Yeah.
I can't do that because I. have-
Or
If you know that much.
I didn't take my meds today.
My other
just
teacher
so
let
you
me
know.
eat
so-
tissue.
Look in the book. Look on page 3. Yeah, you'll see my profile. I am not allowed to read out loud.
Oh.
What? Nah, bro, you about to
Yes.
read out loud today?
Yeah.
And exactly what I say to
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
If you know how to say all of that,
Out loud.
Out loud in front
Then
of
you
the
about
class.
to read this
That's what you're
out
doing.
loud.
and I tell them all the time, you know what? My teacher don't make me do that. Guess who's here? Not your teacher.
Don't do it today.
You'll resume that when she returns. He or she returns tomorrow.
Right. Resume.
So when kids learn at like a faster pace than other kids, how do you like manage that? I mean, do you keep feeding the kid work, or do you tell the kid no, wait until everyone else catches up?
Put them in a leadership position. Put them
What
in.
she's
Put
talking
them,
about
let
as far
them
as
help.
learning, though.
Yeah,
You said that if
Enhancing their learning.
learning because I
They're
use my
finishing
son
their
as
work
an example.
before anybody else.
He learns
basically.
quick.
Yeah.
If I tell Pat, listen to this song once or twice, he can recite the entire song by the third time.
So if he's in a room with 30 other students and you need to get those students up to where he is,
Every teacher, well, no,
No,
every,
he's
every
finishing
teacher,
before everybody
yeah,
else.
like he
all
always
before
like,
everybody
yeah.
else.
So like when he gets done, because now we homeschool him, and that's the main reason why. The reason why I'm asking these questions is to get more feedback because of him too, because they have came to us. Your son may need to be tested. Like no, he doesn't. Give him more work, and then you see a difference. So they tried that. He'll get more work, and then it got to a point where they say, hey, well, we can't keep doing that.
Right.
Because the other kids have to, catch up. So we put them in a Montessori school, right? Thinking that, it'd be the same, that they'll just keep feeding them work, getting work there. Because he said, Dad, I already know this work, So he gets bored. So he's like, I already know this stuff. Can I do something else? And they like, well, you got to sit here and just do this. And he'll go over there and he'll do that. And then they'll say, okay. And he's like, well, I want to do more. And they're like, how is he doing all this stuff that fast? I'm like, just keep feeding him work, give him harder stuff.
Well, here's
Yeah.
another
So now
another
we just
angle.
homeschooling now.
I experienced that myself, and what should have happened is I should have been sent to another grade. But at the time, my parents did not want me. They were afraid for me to go to a higher grade.
And see, and that's what I thought.
So what I was
doing
saying, and if they don't do, if they won't do that, what I'm saying is, in that classroom, give him more responsibilities because he will continually learn other things by teaching other students. So if you have a student that's not learning as fast as him, and you have this teacher that's teaching them in one way of learning, he may be able to show them a different way to get to the same information faster, which is in turn teaching him another skill. In the meantime, and that's what I was saying, give him more responsibility.
Also, just to chime in too. One of the misconceptions is to feed them more work, which technically is what they would call an accelerated program, to put them in an Excel class and then they just move at a quicker pace. But instead of feeding them more work, give them the work he just had, but help him to expand, make it rigorous and expound on the work that he has already had. So build on it at a higher, based off of his higher skill level, which is called differentiation. So you don't give one child, you don't give everybody the same thing, first of all.
Yeah.
You give Pat work according to his skill ability, which is going to be more challenging. You give little Billy work according to his skill. Same content, maybe even the same book. But give Pat, like you said, he can memorize a song twice, right? Okay, well, how can we apply this song in a different way? You know, can we rewrite the song? And give me a topic or a concept to rewrite the song, you know, or can you pull out the theme of the song, you know? So Pat still has a song, but now he has to think deeper, which they used to call it Bloom's taxonomy. Yeah. So how deep can we go into actually pulling out his critical thinking and stuff like that on the same thing? Because feeding him more work just keeps him busy, you know, but giving him responsibility is still busy work. Pat still has to learn. Pat still has to get new information in. So, yeah.
So if Pat is advanced at learning and he's ahead of the other group and he's sitting next to little Billy and little Billy hasn't gotten it yet, if he is explaining it to little Billy, he's doing what you said, expanding his learning.
Or he was doing that.
If he explains it in a different way.
He was doing that, and then he'll say, you know, stop talking. Well, and he'll say, oh, you know, he's not getting it. You know, I'm helping him. No, stop talking. I mean, he's...
But Pat also shouldn't spend his time helping other students too, because Pat still has to learn, and Pat should still be growing and developing mentally, because his brain has to be exercised and developed too. So he shouldn't be the co-teacher all daggone day just because he's finished first. No, you know what I'm saying? He should still be learning along with everybody else.
Short circuit. Robot. Yeah, I mean, that's Pat.
And they shouldn't send him delivering things to other classes.
Running errands, right? Let's make Pat run all the errands for the teacher because he gets done first.
Right, report cards to every classroom.
I have this theory about kids who appear to have ADHD. I think that if you look at a lot of the CEOs and leaders of this world today who are very good at what they do because they're consistent, they stay on it, and they stay busy, a lot of these leaders had were considered ADHD when they were younger.
Absolutely.
And I always take advantage of, like, I think his son, Pat's son, is going to be a CEO of a company. He doesn't take no for an answer. He likes to stay busy.
Oh my God,
he's attentive, and he wants to know more. He wants to learn more. He questions things that are already existing. You know what I mean? And that's not ADHD. That is a kid who needs to be challenged and taught more.
So Pat, I think needs more questions.
Yeah,
and he actually needs answers. He needs questions. Literally, give him questions to find the answer.
And see, the thing with him, like, you know, he'll read something, right? And then I'll say, son, okay, so explain to me what you read. And he'll do it. and then he'll say, "Well, I think the story should have ended this way because of this," and I listen to him. I'm like,
Yeah.
"What in the world?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you
Future
guys, you also have to realize that the teacher in that situation has 28 other students, and not to say or take anything away from that particular student, but I'm saying on behalf of the teachers, they don't have the resources, so they need the resources to handle those types of situations. If I have a student that's advanced and I have to give him a different work or work harder, and then am I losing my other 28 students? So that goes back on the school and the administration to make sure that the teachers are well equipped.
Right.
Is there another teacher? And that's the problem with the students that have special needs. They don't have enough resources for that. And then students that are advanced, they don't have enough resources for that. So either one is going to fall by the wayside because we're trying to handle an entire classroom.
I have a question in regards to that. Like, okay, so you're a school and you have 28, let's say 28 kids in a classroom. Okay, I mean,
Which is
that's
too
a lot
many.
of kids in a classroom, first of all.
That's
I
too
mean,
many.
even to me, 20 is a lot in the
I've had
classroom
40.
because individually you have to focus on each one and
Cut off
learn each one of
should be
these
15.
kids and try
Yeah,
and
how you
teach
do it.
them. But how do
And if you're
you,
in middle school,
how do you,
28 times 4.
with that many students in a classroom, how do you pick out those kids or no? Because a lot of the kids don't even want to be known as the dumb kid or don't want to be known that they don't want it. They kind of hide or duck off into the sunset, you know, and won't say anything. So how do you, and you know, maybe you guys have an answer for this when you reach that level, but how do you manage having that many kids in the classroom and teaching each one of them the same amount of you know, education?
So we have a hard cap. There's no more than 20 kids in any of our
I love it.
classrooms.
Good.
That's beautiful.
And so part of it is so that we could
That is definitely
do
worth
some of those
applause.
things that you're talking about, making
Right.
sure that we have small groups and we're able to manage
Right.
them. So, and then I think the bigger thing for us is really, particularly for our larger class, it's about having a really structured day and a really strong, rigid culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that gives the teacher the opportunity to do some of those things because kids know what to do, they know what to expect. And so that gives them the chance to build some of those relationships to get to know them.
Right.
The other thing is, you know, I mentioned earlier that we have a student supports coordinator. You know, it's been a month and a half of school, and we've already had 3 PDs just centered around special education. And so how we support those scholars. And one of the very first ones was essentially kind of a breakdown of what all of their IEPs, 504s were,
Right.
and kind of working through some of the strategies and supports that teachers can incorporate in just a natural lesson, so that we're providing, you know, the same supports to all of those students. So it's almost like stealth way of providing some of that support to those scholars, but and so that's been huge for us, having that individual that's their job and they're
Sure.
holding others accountable, right? Because when you have a large class, it's easy to get away from because you can get fixated on those scholars that are doing exceptionally well, or you can get fixated on the scholars that are not. And so having that person there also helps us to kind of be accountable. Are we doing the things that we say that we were going to do? Are we doing the things that we need to do for those scholars' sake? So
That's why identifying, you know, being able to identify certain kids, you know, instead of considering them slow because a majority of the kids get it, you know, that's a problem. What are your thoughts on that?
I was gonna say, I mean, I think we are afforded a little bit of a luxury with smaller students.
Sure.
So sometimes the conscious stigma of you're in the low, middle, or high group just
Right.
doesn't resonate. We're just having fun. You know, that's the rocket ships, that's the spaceships, and the teacher knows that you're tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? And when you go to the small horseshoe table, that you're, you know, when you get to the end of the reading comprehension lesson, that you're drawing a picture and, you know, filling in, you're reading a book, but the book you have is like patterns, right? I like apples. I like I like this. I like this, right? But the tier 3 group or tier 1 group, right? They may be, instead of doing a picture, reading the book and then writing the sentence about it because that's where they're at, right? So I think just you have the ability, and even with older students in middle school, it still is something where you can, you know, you can students understand and recognize like they're doing something different in a group, right? But you can do it in a way that's not in your face, and you know people are on the margins. The other piece is with instruction, like outside of small group instruction, even in whole group instruction, if you have been thoughtful about internalizing lesson plans, doing intellectual prep, I can still execute a lesson in a way that if I have 20 students or 25 students, or unfortunately we've been in classrooms where it's 35 students, 36 students, I know that if I'm asking you know, a factual question and a critical question and an inferential question, going back to the balloons, it's a certain level of rigor. A factual is more so, what color was the man wearing in the shirt, right? And a critical more so is character motivation, right? Why did he knock over the water after he talked to his mom, right? So when I'm asking that question to the whole group, I'm going to start with who is my high, medium, and middle and low student, and I know on page 5 when I ask this question, this is for my low student, this is for my middle student, this is for my high student. So it's still being thoughtful about the preparation so that you can differentiate even when you don't have the luxury of a smaller classroom.
Rick hit something really important with the preparation piece, and so it really goes to your book as well. You know, our lesson plans are required to be submitted to the Dean of Curriculum Instruction so far in advance.
Wow.
And so you get feedback. Pretty consistent. Not
That's
pretty
wonderful.
consistent.
Rewind. Who is that?
So we have a Dean of Curriculum Instruction. Her job primarily is to focus in on to make sure that we are providing top quality instruction to our scholars. That we are using rigorous curriculum and it's being implemented in a way.
Is that a requirement to have someone like that?
No.
Or you just implemented that because you wanted to make sure that
we wanted to make sure that
That's awesome.
we were pushing that. That's a point of emphasis for us. And so, you know, as much as I hate getting late Saturday night emails, I often do, and it's back and forth between she and some of our teachers just around feedback on their lesson plans. And then, you know, we have morning meetings every morning. So I tell everybody we do PD Monday through Friday, twice on Friday, right? And so using some of those morning PD periods to practice. Really, you just get an at bat at some of these strategies that we've been talking about. You know, you wouldn't send a basketball player into the game without them having practice, right? I'm sure Pat's been held out of a game for at least a quarter or two because he didn't show up to practice. You just don't do that. And so
we're getting beat up tonight.
Allen Iverson.
I've actually missed practice for a week and still started, bro.
not under Kiefer.
Come on, Wanda.
No, not for Keith.
What you got?
I feel a Cat Williams moment coming.
What you got, Wanda?
I feel a Cat Williams moment coming on.
So you make a mean bowl of broccoli.
Broccoli.
I do actually. Put it in the microwave. I do steamers.
And paprika.
And Zatarain.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So bringing it back, you can imagine if they have these rigorous lesson plans and I walk into a classroom with no lesson plan at all. So I have a variation of classrooms that I can go in where I have everything I need. It's all laid out. I have tips and information on specific students on how to handle specific situations, all the way down to I have nothing. And I'm coming in K through 12, all subjects, and I am supposed to walk in the door being prepared to handle all of those situations. And like I was saying before I wrote this book, there are many books that are written to the substitute on what to do if you don't have something you need from the teacher. So I said, why don't we just write a book to the teacher to tell the teacher what to leave, and we don't need all those books. So, you know, in essence, I'm walking in the door and I don't have, I have limited information and limited knowledge of those students. So that's really what this book is all about, is speaking to all of these points. How do you handle these things? You guys are allowed to be in the classroom with the students, meet the parents, have meetings. I walked in today and I had maybe 10 to 20 minutes and sometimes less to get up to speed on what's been happening in this classroom. So the best thing that I could do is walk into the classroom with just enough resources to get me through this particular day or how many days you decided to call off.
This is a book that principals should probably have on deck for.
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, for
I think
teachers.
so.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
teachers
a good
too.
additive.
This is
you
for
know,
teachers,
school.
school
Yeah.
districts, administrations. I mean, some administrations don't have all these things that these gentlemen have set up.
Right.
These are some wonderful things. A dean of instruction to make sure that the lesson plans are quality. They don't even have someone to say, make sure there's a lesson plan. So, so this book is geared toward all of those people. Substitutes can get tips on what to do if their resources are not there. Teachers can get tips on what to do to prepare and why from the perspective of a guest teacher that would be taking their place. Schools can get information on how to make things consistent, standard across the board. It's a lot in this little book, and it has a little fun to it. It's not boring. I can say that.
Awesome. I have a question for everybody. I hear this a lot. I'm working so hard. Just pray for me on when I see Facebook posts that has anything to do with education. I don't care what the topic is, and if it's inaccurate, I gotta go in.
I know. I seen.
I gotta go in.
You friends with
You know,
Ebony? Be careful what you say about education.
I mean, because that's the only. I mean, I know educate now. You
She's
talking about the
passionate.
Colts? Are you anybody else? I'm not
You
saying
out
a
of it.
thing. I don't have nothing to say about that. But I hear this a lot, and it burns me up that the school system is broken, or the education system is broken, and I've had to. My rebuttal is, it's not broken. There's people in the system that are broken, but the system itself isn't broken. Because when you say that, you're talking about Robert Marshall, you're talking about Rick Anderson, you're talking about Sequoia, you're talking about Dr. Armstrong, you're talking about me, you're talking about all these great people that are a part of that system, that do what they're supposed to do and try to make it better. So what do you say about that statement? And because I've heard it a lot. I don't know if you've heard it a lot, but the school system's broken. What do you think about that?
I mean, if the leg on a chair is broken, the chair is broken. So if one piece is broken, it's broken. Doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
No,
I get
said
the
elaborate.
analogy.
If the chair
Yeah.
is broken, then it's broken.
Yeah.
If the chair is broke, if the leg on the chair is broken, the chair is broken.
So you saying if one
So I'm
part is
saying
broken,
one
the
part-
whole thing?
It's broken. The concept that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you can't sit in the chair. It doesn't mean that you can't lean your arm on the armrest. Doesn't mean you can't lean back on the chair. But the chair is still broken. So all the parts may not be broken within that whole chair, but the chair is broken.
Now let me ask you this. This is a part two for you, just for that statement. What would you do? How would you describe the school system to make that analogy? What is the school system?
Well, I'm just saying specifically to that point.
Right.
As far as my idea on whether or not the school is broken, I think there are so many things that are broken about it, but I also think that there's so many things that are great about it.
Yeah.
So when it's broken, when we talk about what's broken, we can talk about the lack of resources financially. We can talk about the teachers that are not there for passion, they're there for a check, and that are not following what they should. And then we can talk about corruptness. We can talk about teachers having sex with their students. I mean, there are so many things you can talk about that makes the system itself broken as a whole. But then there are things that are wonderful. You cannot be a teacher unless you have a teaching certificate. So even though I have a doctorate in educational leadership, I am not actually qualified to be a teacher even at the first grade level. That's broken.
Well,
so there's
charter schools. We were just talking about this before the show started. In regards to there is some leeway. And then so Rick, if you can expound on that leeway as far as having, but I want you guys to answer. What do you think about that statement?
So yeah, I'll start with the certification one. With charters in the state of Indiana, I believe, and Robert, correct me if it's wrong, 10% of your teaching staff does not have to be certified. So the the most responsible decision, even with that kind of a flexibility, is even when you hire someone that may not be certified, what can you as a school provide them to start working towards their certification, or what do you have coming into, like, I want to teach, right? It's like, have you looked into an alternative certification program? Have you taken any, like, just versus saying, like, I want to go to the MBA. Have you started, you see what I'm saying? Like, so that's the kind of piece of, like, there's leadway and flexibility in the charter, but also when you're bringing people on, what are you going to do to build their skill set or to get them certified, or what is your plan regardless of what school you're at? The larger to your question about the system piece, there's a strategy in teaching called do not engage. And that's when, what that means. What that means
tell me what I need to do.
That's just like, so I use a lot of, school-based analogy, but like if a student is throwing a tantrum and kicking over a desk, why am I going to escalate and start yelling at you or tell you? I'm just going to, as long as you're not causing yourself physical, safety, putting that in jeopardy, right, or myself or the students, I'm just going to wait until you come to a more rational sense, and then I'll sit down. Are you okay now? Now I need you to sit down and do this paper before we go back to class, right? So with that, another piece is everyone has a positive, good, or really bad. So everybody has a strong opinion about the system, about what teachers are or not, right? My thing is, what's at the end of our mission in the school, right? To live a life of positive action, right? So maybe I can't change or alter what your perception of the system is, or what a charter is, or what a traditional saying we're talking about right now is what I'm saying happening. Is it 4,000 students? No, in terms of what you're doing, and then how can that be scaled to benefit as a whole what you perceive as a broken system or an okay system, whatever it may
So
be.
Rick is saying, I have the solution. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I don't have it yet. We're working towards it.
But let's focus on this.
And then the onus is on those people that say, that have children, not bring your child to that school.
Right, but the thing that I was going to say too is for someone that says that it's broken, put it back on them. What are you doing to help fix it?
There you go.
You're a window shopper
There you
right
go.
now. You don't know the
Absolutely.
details. Like, so what are you doing to better your community?
Window
school?
shopper. Right?
Absolutely.
Let's take it beyond
Because
education.
You know what I was going to say to that? I don't know who actually said that, but I know a lot of times that statement comes from parents.
57.
And what I think the difference is what happened in the past
Not the window
and what's
shopper.
happening. And it should take a village as it has in the past. And the parents should step up and join in and bond with the teachers and the educators and the schools to make it better as a whole. And I think that's a major part.
Your son or daughter has a learning curve. You definitely should be engaging in some after school stuff with them at home.
I think you're absolutely right, especially, but everyone, if you have a child in school, you should be having some part. I know you have a busy life, you have work and family, but you have to engage in some type of way. Because if your student, your child, doesn't see you engaged, then they feel that they don't have to.
Right.
And they disrespect the teachers and leaders and everybody that they come across.
They disrespect teachers. They don't follow instructions. But you'll see the difference when you have the parent on board, and you see the parent respecting the teacher. So how is a student going to respect a teacher if they see their parent disrespecting that teacher? How is that possible?
Or disrespecting the fact that they are trying to go to school to learn.
Right. Absolutely.
Some parents don't even care about school. They don't ask them about what's going on when they get home. They don't ask them how the day went. They don't ask them anything. It's just there.
At all.
It's disengaged. Yeah.
I would say that
he's been
Vanguard. No, you all have made very valid points about it. Vanguard exists because there are challenges in the system. A community that has not historically or traditionally received the quality education options that those families deserve.
Right.
Just like the ones north of 465.
Sure.
And so that's why we're here.
Right.
Is to provide that. And so I would broken as a whole
soon. But I do want to ask, like, what are some major goals that you hope to accomplish for this year?
Good question.
Let's get this enrollment up now.
Get these books sold.
Actually, I would say before I even go into that, we are currently taking applications for next school year. So with our Director of Community Engagement to come tour the school and hear more about us.
Absolutely.
So for us, our goals are centered around on the operational side for us. You know, some of you know part of my background has been fund development. And so we have a goal of raising $250,000 this school year.
Nice.
Okay.
And so we've been plugging away, working towards that. I will say
Fundraising?
a lot of grant writing. I would love for you all to support. You know, that was one of my stakes in the ground. I wasn't gonna say anything. I don't go in on Facebook like you do. But I wanted to when I saw everybody in Indianapolis getting hype about LeBron James opening up a charter school, and I'm like, there's two brothers.
Right
you.
here.
Yes.
Right here. Opening up.
In Hallville.
Say that again.
Not north of 465.
How many of
in
y'all shared our
Hallville.
post on Facebook?
So many people.
Like
So many people share celebrity posts and posts from people that they don't know.
Yeah.
That baffles me.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's called hater.
Is that what it's called?
course.
It's called hater.
And then who would hate on somebody opening up a school?
Because
I guess we just hate on
Absolutely.
anything, don't we? Look at
that-
him.
is
Look at
that-
him starting up a school.
Correct.
Who does he think he
Who do you
is?
think he is?
Exactly. Who
Knowing
think
good
he
and
is?
well they wouldn't even
Why
want
is she
to
writing
think
a
of starting
book?
a
Who
school.
does she
Do
think
you
she
know
is
the
to
work?
write a book?
Right. Do you know the work it is
Oh,
to start a
goodness.
school? I'm telling you, I got exhausted looking at both of y'all start your schools. I said I don't see how they did it because I mean it's all
Passion.
It's a big deal.
every
Passion.
weekend. I mean they were always somewhere doing something. I'm like, oh my
Passion.
god, that's it. I mean Robert was cleaning his own floors. Didn't you buff the floors or something like
We
that?
about the week before
Or
school,
something happened with the flood.
school opened, we were having plumbing work done,
Mm-hmm.
and the plumbers, you know, when you're working on pipes, you got to turn them off, and then you're supposed to turn them back on in the air.
Standards.
And it didn't happen, and the back half of the school flooded. And
Can
so
you
yeah,
imagine?
during that, I got a call. And
I know
when
you
got the-
were hot.
When I got the call, though, it didn't seem like it was a big deal. And so
Uh-huh.
when I was going back to the school anyway. I went home. During that time, I was working all day, and then I would go home, put my kids to bed, and then go back and work at night. And when I got back, man, that water was up to my ankles.
Oh my god.
I wore my slides and no socks, but water up to my ankles. And so yeah, I mean that's part of the work, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
being the school leader means that you are the janitor, you're the maintenance
Yes.
man, you are the
Counselor,
nurse,
yep.
you're the counselor, the therapist,
Father,
the father,
the brother, everything.
So you do a lot, and so I mean that's part of the work. I mean,
Wow.
I take pride in
I
our
commend you,
building and the
brothers.
appearance
I
of our
commend you.
buildings.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, man, for real.
So
I
proud.
sincerely believe that
I
this.
say, shout out to my wife.
Yeah.
And so what I said,
There you
yeah,
go.
allow-
Shout out.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Sequoia
The work.
and shout
Yep.
out to Mrs. Marshall.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The real leaders behind the scene. We know.
Mm-hmm. That's
Right.
authentic.
Same.
Making it happen.
I want to. What was the? Oh yeah. Okay.
Goals
So
for the year.
Yeah.
you kept saying passion, but I mean passion. I'm not like saying this is like to be cliche, but passion leads to purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like so, if you're passionate about something, then you have a purpose to go make an impact.
Absolutely.
So I think the question was just what are our goals
Yeah.
for this year? One, I mean, obviously opening because a lot of schools get. There were 2
And you get to
years.
that.
2 years before, if we remember right, people's memories are short. There were 2 years before we even,
Yeah.
found a building, found a staff.
Yeah.
I was sitting in front
Yep.
of people with a piece of paper, and
Yeah.
it's like this guy. I literally there's a pastor off West 16th, and it's funny. I came in and talked to his congregation to the same event he had annually, and I was coming back and talking to him, and he was like, "Man, you know what? When you left that 1 year ago, talking about the school, it was a guy. He's not here today." But he came up to me after church like, "Man, who's this crazy fool talking about opening the school with a piece of paper? Where's the school at?" One of the, but like to your point, like, where is it at? The people are like, "Where's it at?
Right,
okay,
right.
when's it gonna open? How?
Right.
Okay, that kind of thing, right?"
See?
And it was just funny. We were laughing about it, but just so again, one piece is just getting to the point where you're open, right? But now that you're open, you have a deeper sense of responsibility to make sure that everything you put in the 300-page charter application 2 years ago comes to
300
fruition,
page,
right?
Absolutely.
300 plus
Come on
page,
now.
right? So for me, I mean, one is obviously the academic outcomes with the MAP assessment. We use the STEP assessment for literacy. So we want, only not over 90% of our students to meet, these rigorous end of year goals. But beyond that, other pieces like we want to, we had the Hallville librarian come in a few days ago and read to our students, right?
Yes.
We've had, and I brought my flyer, my one piece to put up, but community, we have preview days, right?
Nice.
So again,
Enjoy that.
it's like opening the doors from 12 to 2 and come in, right? If you maybe, I'm interested potentially in enrolling my child next year, maybe I want to see what cognitively guided instruction that you keep talking about looks like. I want to see what differentiation is, right? I want to see your community circle, your morning message, right? So I think for us, it's just being as vulnerable as possible and opening the doors and saying, hey, come and see us, give feedback, ask questions, right? And then go spread the news to people that may be interested in, I don't have a background in fundraising, but providing, fundraising or coming in and actually, saying I want my student to go here next year. So that is the week of next week. I believe it's Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 2. So just come in and spread the word along with the shout out. Like Mrs. Anderson has been huge, right? There's a lot of sacrifice that comes in, uprooting yourself from another city to move to start something that doesn't exist.
Wow.
And, to just be a support on the sideline is huge, right? But to be there every single day, right, in the building, has been a huge sacrifice. So I just, with Avery as well, our daughter goes to one of the daycares that drops off and picks up students, right? So she's there just as much as we are, right? So selfishly, sometimes I think about like just the demand that I've imposed on my family in order to build this proof point.
Absolutely.
So it wouldn't be possible without Mrs. Anderson. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
That's a big deal.
What's your
my goals?
I'm sorry. What's your website, Rick? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
www.allegiantprep.org. And again, you can go to enroll on the website to enroll, or also send a message or RSVP on our flyer there. Our social media pages are
Allegiant Prep Facebook, and then we have Allegiant Prep, the Instagram, and we have Twitter, but we're not that active.
yeah, and we put all of our events up there for the school. So yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Dr. Armstrong.
So
And my cousin.
Yes.
Sorry.
So my goals
Show
are
off.
directly related to this book. One of the major goals is to bridge the gap between the teacher and the guest teacher, and that's by getting this book in the teacher's hands. As well as coming out and doing professional development, speaking to the teachers, speaking to educators, and explaining or talking about how we can bridge that gap, how we can make it a situation
Seamless.
where it's seamless, where the student is not missing a day of learning because of teacher sick or is out for professional development or Teachers Institute or anything of that nature. So that is my goal. So in order to reach that goal, I would be obliged if you are interested in having me come out and speak to the teachers. Definitely purchasing the book. In order to purchase the book, you can go to my website. It's www.she'sadoctor.com. Doctor is spelled out. www.she'sadoctor.com. On my website, you can also go to my events page. I am actually doing a book signing tour at this very moment. So you can go to my website and see those events, and you can also book me to come and speak at your school and order a book for everyone in your school district. How to leave your class for a guest teacher.
Nice.
I just want to say that vision or have a goal or a vision and complete it. They get discouraged. It's easy to decide not to do something that you hadn't even started yet.
Yeah.
So
It is.
and to speak to you guys' point on the women in your lives that are helping you, I want people out there to know how very important that is, especially for men. We need if we got an idea in our head. I'm gonna use the hot dog stand again, so y'all just bear with me.
Come on with
hot
it.
dog stand.
Come on.
If I want to sell hot dogs and I got the best hot dogs in the world, I need my wife to believe in me. I need her to back me, no matter what it is. Every man I don't even like hot dogs. So, but it's the best. It's the best thing because a hot dog. You would think, wow, who would want a hot dog stand? That's my point. Is that it doesn't matter what it is. It could be something as simple as a hot dog stand, but every person has a dream and a vision to accomplish something, and it's so important to have people around you that believe and see that too. And sometimes it does take for you. That's a whole different life.
Yeah, never mind.
But everybody needs people around them to support the vision because it just dies with you. are doing it by yourself.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It really does die with a lot of people because they end up getting discouraged and not starting at all. So it's so important. What y'all doing, man, that's brilliant. That's love. You're involved.
Yes.
Same
Absolutely.
lives,
Backbone.
Yeah.
That's what people need.
Absolutely.
You need somebody to be in your corner, and you need somebody to say, "Hey, you know what? Even though the lights are off, they're gonna come on tomorrow."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Right.
man, we need that, and that's for any business or anything that anybody is starting. That's why I'm proud of y'all, man, because a year and a half ago, we sat in the same room and was just looking at
nothing in
paper
there.
and flyer and just like, yeah, this is what we're
Talking
gonna
about
do.
their
And to
plans.
see that this thing is happening.
Yeah.
The buildings are here, the students are here, they're being taught. Man, that's amazing. So I would say that anybody that's listening in, or the viewers, y'all get in contact with these schools. Get into contact with my cousin, Dr. Nicole Armstrong over here. I think it's important that we support these avenues and these things that are going on. This is discussion that people miss. That they say, well, y'all need to do this and
Say
do that.
that,
You ever
yeah.
see these news
Come on.
posts and in the media outlets, and they saying, well, what are y'all doing to fix the kids, and what are y'all doing to do this and this? This is what we doing.
Right.
Having important discussions on how we get there.
And
Substance
shout
based.
out to the gray area.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
they
Thank
saw
you.
that we
Yeah.
were doing these things and they brought us on and gave us a platform to have a discussion on. So
Appreciate that.
you guys are doing an awesome job as
Thank you.
well. Thank you for having us. I know that. Oh, and I forgot to say, follow me at she'sadoctor.com
There you go.
on all my social media.
Plug it.
All
Plug it.
social media. I forgot. I always forget that. I'm not great at that social media.
And I
thing,
saw
but
it, too.
Follow me at
Yeah.
all social media: Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn,
She's
Facebook. All at She's. I even have a Snapchat. I haven't done it yet, but I even have a Snapchat at she'sadoctor.com.
I would not touch
When you
that.
figure it out, let me know.
I know the kids are gonna show me how to do it, but they
I
still
don't
need
even,
to do a
I don't even use
Snapchat.
my Instagram.
I do.
I'm
I
still
do,
on
I do.
Facebook. I just
Me too. Just still on Facebook.
You want
to the end.
But
You gotta
Hold
get
on
that stuff
to it.
out there. You gotta get that stuff
Yeah.
out there.
I'm just-
so.
Definitely.
I mean, the same point. Like, thank you guys because, unfortunately,
For sure.
and I don't know if I want to put this on within our community, but sometimes I think it's big. Sometimes when there's an unproven entity, and I'll be honest, there is a certain level of maybe skepticism is too strong of a word, right? Or just casualness around, like,
Yeah,
well, let me
spot
wait
on,
and see,
yeah,
right?
like,
Like,
yeah.
okay, you open up, okay, well, let me see in 2 or 3 years what's going on before I put my name on it, right? And I understand that to an extent, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, that dynamic can be very discouraging. But you guys are one of the, for me, one of the first and only like platforms where it was like, reaching hundreds of people, right, about
Absolutely.
a school that we were working to start about. So thank you for
No problem.
seeing
Thank you
something
for
and inviting us
coming
back. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you.
They almost made me want to go back and have some kids to send to their school. That almost. It was. I
We need a
was
soundbite on that to go on the website.
I almost want to go back and go to that school. But no, I'm gonna tell somebody about it. I'm gonna tell somebody.
Tell somebody they got
I'm
some
gonna
kids.
tell somebody that has some kids already.
We too old out here to be having.
Excuse me.
no
You
more
speak for
me.
yourself.
Oh,
I
cousin,
said
Yourself
we.
on the age.
cousin has spoken.
The age. Just speak for
We.
yourself.
We.
And last thing, then I'll be quiet. Is I always miss this point. We are kindergarten and first grade. So just
That's
as
right,
people
I was
listen,
a
we are
kid.
kindergarten and first grade, and we add a grade each year. So
And
make
they
sure we
have to be
seven.
5 by August 1st.
And that's not our fault. The state
Yes.
made that change. So don't
Yeah.
get mad at us.
Yes.
I know it made me go to school late when I was little
They have
because
to be five.
my birthday's in
August
January.
1st.
You don't know how many mothers have given me that real deal.
So what? So,
Wow.
so
And
what
that's
was
a
the
good thing, to be
previous age
disappointed.
limit?
So, well, I'm not too familiar with Indiana, but I know that it changed this year.
Okay.
Because we had a lot of, and specifically too,
I thought it
September
was
to
September
August?
30th.
yeah, yeah.
They moved to August now, right?
It
August
changed,
1st.
and no matter what, though,
Wow.
regardless of whether you're charter or private, public, you have to abide by that now. Whereas
Mm.
before, there was a little bit of wiggle room for charters, but it's August 1st for everyone.
Well. You better hope that pregnancy.
Time it right.
Hit before August 3rd.
time
July
We
31st.
try to come out, push them back
Can't
in
wait
there.
till Valentine's Day to get together. It's be coming out late.
Yeah, so, okay.
Since you want to
Yeah.
close us out, man, or say anything?
Sure. Of course. We just said thank you about a million times,
Yeah.
but thank you
Yeah,
again.
Thank you.
Keep us posted and updated, so that we can have you back on here too.
Keep pushing this thing.
Right, keep on pushing. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. Please share the word about these two great schools educators, administrators, share the word about Dr. Armstrong. I know for sure as an educator, this book would be dynamic for, you know, I
see you halfway through it already.
I know, right? I've been thumbing through it since we've been on air. And like I told, and for the educators that are listening, like I told Dr. Armstrong, she has a niche. You know, so for the educators out there, because like you guys said, we live in a day and age where educators are underappreciated and underpaid. You know, like me and Rick were just talking, you know, and Sequoia, you know, we get paid. Some of us do actually get paid a nice amount. It depends on where you live and so forth. Depends on what you negotiate, which is what we talked about. But we're not paid our worth. Administrators aren't paid their worth, you know, in my opinion, except for the ones that make 6 figures. So but anyway, but now even the 6 figures still isn't enough for y'all. So what? Am I hating on the 6-figure people? What? No, I'm not. I'm not hating on them. I love. 6 figures. Go ahead. I know some of our people that are 7th grade vice principals making 6 figures in middle school, and it's a beautiful thing. You know. So. And it's still not enough, though, for the stuff that y'all have to deal with, even as administrators, okay? So my point is, you know, educators nowadays have to be creative, you know, and kind of think outside and extend beyond education. And so, you know, a lot of educators are writing books. They're becoming authors, comedians. We talked about that.
When is your book coming out?
I'm still working on it. Thank you, though. I love the motivation. I love that. Because
that's under the skin.
That's checking me, okay? So this right here is motivation and inspiration for us educators to do something outside of, you know, outside of it. Share your knowledge, you know, use that knowledge that you have to help other people, other educators, other schools. And like we said, you know, part of that broken system mentality or whatever, or going back to that, I mean, write a book, you know, help the system.
Help the system.
Part of the solution.
Absolutely.
Be a part of the solution. Okay, parents, write a book. Write a book on how to be more involved in school. I want somebody to write that book. Do we have a book on parent involvement from a parent?
Engagement in school.
Parent engagement. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Let me
Why don't you write it down?
Don't steal my stuff, Dr. Armstrong.
Go ahead and write that.
Let me.
And
y'all heard
once
that?
you write that book, you come see me because I'll help you get it published.
All right now. So again, thank you, viewers. Thank you guys for always, you know, tuning in and listening and sharing the word of the Gray Area Media.
Yes.
We are just proud to provide you with a positive platform for the community, and we will continue to do that.
Absolutely, and we will see y'all next week. Peace out.
Thanks for having us.
Good stuff, man.
She was like, "Hey, nephew." That's what I was showing you.
Oh, that was Mom's?
That's Mom. She's like, "Hey, nephew."
I just got
Tell her I
that
need to
text,
come down there and see her one time.
Patrick. I just got your text
all the time. And next, after
30 minutes ago.
That was wonderful.
It was.
Okay, let me get